Hello everyone, this is Mike Bogle and I am here to teach you about Midi, musical instrument digital interface, how you connect computers to musical instruments like this keyboard. And in the background you hear a song by the 1 O'Clock Lab Band, and I was actually nominated for a Grammy Award for this particular arrangement called Got a Match. And part of what I want to teach you also is how to create songs and beats using GarageBand, using Logic Pro, and also about the Grammy process and how to submit your songs. We have our own internal process called the DJammy Awards, and you will be able to submit your music for consideration for these awards, which will happen in the spring of each year. So we have our own little mini sort of Grammy Awards. It's called the DJammy Awards. So the program you see here is called Finale, which is a program that we use in other classes like Midi 2, composition, and orchestration classes, which hopefully many of you will be interested in taking those classes as well. But right now, we're going to start off with Project 1 in Midi class, which is we utilize Logic Pro and GarageBand. Usually, actually, I do the first project in GarageBand, but if you're interested in Logic Pro as well, by the second project of Midi, you have the option of using GarageBand or Logic Pro. So I'm going to go ahead and open up GarageBand for a second, and I keep all my dock on the left side of the computer. Find that more convenient for me. But you may have yours at the bottom. And GarageBand is recently updated, so it's a brand new design. This is something that we always have to deal with, is just new designs coming out and new software. So I will be right in there with you and a lot of this stuff, getting used to new things because it's always changing. Now, when GarageBand opens, a lot of times it loads the last project that was there before. So it's doing that right now. And we're waiting for that. And then after that, I will create a new project. This is something called New York Minute. And not sure what all that is, but it's some kind of a MIDI track. I'm going to go to File, New, and you can see the shortcut for that is Command-N. We're going to talk a lot about shortcuts too. But New, Empty Project. And this Project 1, and you will have the handout for this online, which tells you the project requirements for it. Must be 6 to 8 tracks, about 32 measures in length at least, and also between 2 and 3 minutes long. Tracks must be quantized if necessary. There should be a copy and paste somewhere in the project. And oops, I actually skipped over to Project 2. So Project 1 that we're going to do in Midi is going to be downloading a pre-existing Midi sequence from the internet. There's different sites like free-midi.org, but you can just do a search for free Midi files and find them. But it should end with .mid, or in some cases .midi. And that way you know that it's a Midi file. You're going to import this Midi file into GarageBand and do a Save As command and convert it into a GarageBand file. You're going to reconfigure instruments for it, and you're going to create a fade out on the master track if necessary. You're going to keep the song under 2 minutes, and you're going to present your final bounce or your final mix to the class, as well as presenting your GarageBand tracks. You'll be turning those in, both the bounce and the tracks in GarageBand, and possibly some screenshots of those tracks. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to start with an empty project with one software instrument, because it always makes you have one track. I'm going to close the editing window by hitting E twice. I close that, and many of these shortcuts work for GarageBand and Logic. And now I have the main arrange area and also the library open right now. I went and did a search over here in Google Chrome or whatever browser you use for some free MIDI files. I found midiworld.com and this song called I Heard It Through the Grapevine by Marvin Gaye. You can pick any kind of song you want. It can be hip hop, country, rock. I would suggest that you keep an open mind, and if your first track doesn't really work out that great, you might just try a different song. You might have better luck. I'm going to click download to download the MIDI file, and then I'm going to go to my downloads folder. Because if you just click on the MIDI file without going to the downloads folder, it may actually open the file into a program called Finale. And we don't want to do that right now. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to minimize my internet window, and I'm just going to take this file, see it ends in .mid, this Marvin Gaye file, and I'm going to drag it into GarageBand, into like about measure 2. And the position pointer says 2111. Just drop it. And it asks if I want to import the tempo information. I'm going to say yes, import tempo information. Because that's one thing that MIDI does. MIDI includes all kinds of information, including the tempo and the various instruments. So you see it opened up there with some brass, some piano, a muted bass, saxophones, some kind of guitar, an organ, and a drum set called SoCal. So let's listen to it. Okay, so it sounds like, you know, it's a pretty decent MIDI file. MIDI files in general tend to sound a little bit cheesy. They don't sound, you know, like something you really listen to on the radio because that's the nature of them. It's all about the information. And we're going to make them sound a little bit better, though, a little bit less cheesy. In some cases, a lot less cheesy. So we're good on that. The next thing I'm going to do is save the project. So Command S. And I'm going to save this as Grapevine, Bogle. So I'll put the name of the song and the name, my name. I am going to open up this window to give me more options and go to the desktop. I'm going to make a new folder on the desktop with the current semester. So let's say like fall 2017. This is the filing system that I used. And filing is very important with audio software. Now, inside of fall 2017, I'm going to make another folder and call it MIDI 1. And if some of you do your projects in the MIDI lab at school, you'll need to follow this filing system. And now, since there may be more than one MIDI class, I'm going to make another folder and call it Online MIDI 1. Then inside of there, I'm going to make another new folder and call it my name, Mike Bogle. Okay? Now I can save the file in there. So now all I have to do is hit Command S every once in a while to resave the file. The next thing we're going to do is just, let's go up here and expand this to beats and time. Because remember, our project has to be no more than 2 minutes. For this project. By the way, this first project is downloading a pre-existing sequence from the internet because it's important for you to learn how to do that. But this is the only project that we're going to do that's not going to be your own original music. Now you see, I'm just fast forwarding through the song by using the period. The period and the comma keys will take you through the song one measure at a time. And I'm just waiting to get to this 2-minute mark. I just got there. And now I'm going to make sure that everything is selected. Hit Command T to split, and delete to delete everything after 2 minutes. And then I can just go up here to Mix and create a nice little fade out automatically. It automatically fades out the end of the song right at 2 minutes. Let's listen to the fade out. So this file is pretty nice that somebody programmed this very well. You're at the mercy of whoever programmed the MIDI file. So for some of you who are maybe a little bit lazier than others, you're kind of done, if you wanted to be. But what we want to do is try to make it a little better and maybe add some more interest to this before we finish it up. I'm going to hit A to turn off the automation now, because when I made the fade out, it turned on the MIDI automation. I'm going to turn that off because you don't want that on when you're not using it. Let's go over here to the loop window and just add something interesting at the beginning. The loop window already looks very different than it used to. I'm going to search for storm. Since this is a stormy kind of song about a romance that maybe is not going so well, I heard it through the grapevine that you were hanging out with someone else. That's what it's about. So I'm going to listen, see if I can find some sound effects. Let's see, this was boat storm. Let's see what that is. Okay, that will work. So I'm going to drag this to a new track down here below the master track, if I can, and just drop it in there. Now I'm going to add a little more. I'm going to move it first of all to the very beginning, so it starts before the song starts, and add a little automation to it. Volume automation by clicking in here creates a line. You can make nodes on the line, and then I can fade this in like that. And then I'm also going to go to where the end of it, and I'm going to fade it out. Just our little storm there, so it just doesn't just end abruptly. So hopefully we'll have a little stormy intro, and then it's going to fade out. So let's listen to our storm that we added to our song. Okay, I like it. The guitar is really bothering me a little bit. It seems kind of harsh. So I'm going to go down and solo this track on the guitar track. And you can hit S to solo that track. And I'm going to make what's called a cycle region up here, starting when the guitar comes in from 5 or 6, let's say, through 6 through 10. Let's listen to that guitar. See, it's kind of harsh. So let's see what we may be able to do about that. I'm going to hit Y to bring up our guitar library, and we can just change this guitar. Right now it's a hard rock guitar. Let's see what happens if I just change it to a roots guitar. Totally different. Let's go back to hard. Let's go to acoustic, classic clean. Oh boy, that doesn't sound good at all. Let's go back to hard rock. So what happened here is we seem to lose the whole chordal aspect of the guitar somehow. So I'm going to try to undo a few times and see if we can get back to where we were. Undo, Command Z, undo again, undo again. Let's see if that got us back where we want to be. Okay, let's work with that. I'm going to double click on this track to open it up and edit it. And one thing I want to do is select all. And let's see if I can transpose. Actually, I guess it's better to deselect it to transpose it. I'm going to see if I can just transpose it down an octave. It sounds almost too high. So let's try that. I think that sounds better. Let's listen to it with the rest of the song. Yeah, that sounds better to me. And this sometimes happens with the guitar and the bass tracks because the guitar and bass are actually transposing instruments. A lot of people don't know that or realize that, but they are supposed to sound an octave lower than they're written. In fact, let's check out the bass real quick while we're talking about that and see if it's in the right octave. That sounds pretty close. Now on the guitar part, I'm going to go ahead and just back off the volume on that a little bit by just moving the fader over a little bit on the screen. And now sometimes this doesn't work because of automation and stuff. So let's see if it does in this case. I backed it off, but let's see if there's any automation on the track that interferes with this. Yeah. Yeah, there's some kind of automation in that MIDI track that keeps bumping it right back up. So we kind of have to fight fire with fire. We have to create our own automation by hitting A and turning on the, if we want it to be volume automation. Click here, and then let's just lower this down here, and we'll maybe even make a little fade in here and see if that solves our problem. The organ also sounds like it may be a little too high. Let's take it down an octave. Because the organ is another one of those transposing instruments. Yeah, I like that better. Now the organ sounds like it may be, well, I think it sounds right. Now you can do various things to this track. Like I said, it's kind of done as far as just getting the first project out of the way, but if you want to get more creative, like let's listen to this lead line here, which is really the synthesizer is doing the voice part. Now one thing I like to do is before you change the sound, which I didn't do this with the guitar track, I kind of wish I would have, I'm going to duplicate this track by saying Command D. And now I'm going to hold down the Option key while I drag down all of this data. So now I have a duplicate track. So now I can mess around with this track without affecting the original. And I'm going to change this. This says it's a bright synth brass. I'm going to change it to like a lead. And mess around with some different leads. Let's see. You can try them out with the keyboard too. That one's a little too much. That one is, maybe possible. So now let's listen to those together with the melody of the song. Yeah. So you can do this endlessly, like the bass part. Let's do the same thing with that. Let's duplicate it. Maybe some of you want a more fatter bass. So I'm going to hold down the Option key to drag down the data. And then I'm going to choose a different bass, like let's say the fingerstyle bass. Let's just turn on our cycle region and listen to these together. And of course you could use a synthesizer bass if you want to too. But I kind of like that. It kind of fattens it up a little bit. Boosting up a little bit. Turn off this. Okay, so we're almost done with the first project. The only thing left is to bounce it, as we say in Logic, or in GarageBand, it's called share. I'm going to turn off the automation. I'm going to hit E twice to get rid of that editing window. I'm also going to hit Y to get rid of the library window, just kind of clean up the screen. And then I'm going to go up here to the share window in GarageBand. And I'm going to say export song to disk. Before I do that though, I'm going to deselect. I can see that one of the tracks is selected. It's a good habit to get into. Now we already know that we stopped it after 2 minutes. And we can check that here. You can see it's right at 2 minutes and we faded it out. So I'm going to go ahead and share. GarageBand doesn't seem to care about all this other extra space over here. Hopefully it won't bounce that as blank space. Share, export song to disk, and I'm just going to leave it as Grapevine Bogle. It's got some time date stamp on it, that's fine. And just put it right there in my same place. And I'm just going to put it as an MP3 file. I don't need it to be a high quality AAC file or an AIFF or a WAV file. And I'm going to export that. And just in a few seconds, it magically mixes the whole thing down to an MP3, which you can listen to on your phone or in your car or wherever you want. Or you can burn a CD. And we're going to find where we put that now. I'm going to look under our fall folder here on the desktop. Fall 2017, Midi 1. And then here's the bounce. And we can double click on that and listen to our final project. We can turn on the visualizer if we want for extra effect. There we go. Okay, so anyway, we know that it has a fade out at the end. That's it. If you have any questions, you can email me, mbogle@dccd.edu or dr.mike@mikebogle.com, drmike@mikebogle.com. Thanks a lot. We'll see you for the next video.